It's a shot of faith.
Shot of faith.
Shot of faith.
I want you to join the town hall, A Shot of Faith, so that you can get all of your questions answered.
This song was written for those.
It was a no-brainer when Lisa Collins asked me to say something.
I'm so honored to have you with us. My name is Bishop Kenneth Ulmer. Let me just set the stage by saying I got mine. I got mine, you get yours.
We have some strong minds from across the state that have gathered today to talk to us clergy in response to this vaccination. Who needs Dr. Fauci when our community got a Dr. Jerry Abraham?
Everybody with underlying health conditions, especially serious ones, like type 2 diabetes, like heart disease, like COPD and asthma, they need this shot more than ever.
It's a shot
Of faith.
Shot of faith.
Shot of faith. Shot of faith.
It's a shot of faith in which the African American church was going to even take a stronger stand. I feel like we are taking our place in the ranks of some of the warriors for justice.
The mortality rate from COVID, how many people died from COVID, made COVID the third leading cause of death last year.
July 15th, 2020, it hit in a real personal way because I lost my mother due to COVID. And so I've never been on the fence.
More afraid of the solution than we are of the disease.
Go ahead and take the shot of faith.
Shot of faith.
Shot of Faith.
We need you to get your shot of faith.
Get vaccinated.
Faith without works is dead. This has been a shot of faith.
Let's go get vaccinated.
I'm so glad that through this partnership, I've been able to get my family vaccinated and our congregation vaccinated. I'm all for it. I'm all in.
Hello, everybody. Hello, and welcome to A Shot of Faith, the webinar. I am the moderator for the evening. My name is Dr. Shalona Sunshine Crawford, and I am happy and excited to present to you this very important and informative discussion on youth and child vaccinations. We want to discuss bigger than that. We want to conversate with you. So with that, this conversation is being presented by the California Department of Public Health and Vaccinate All 58. Now, the pandemic has been hard on everyone, both young and old, which is why I want to start by encouraging you all to protect yourselves and your loved ones from COVID-19 and its fast spreading variants by getting vaccinated and boosted. We also want to encourage you to speak to your child or your teen about how they're feeling about the pandemic and to empower them to be comfortable in sharing their thoughts and their feelings as our youth have particularly been affected in a way that none of us could have ever imagined. They face, different from us often, additional stresses that accompany COVID-19. So tonight we want to dig in just a little bit deeper into the issues of both youth vaccines and also the mental health issues that our youth and our children face. We want to offer some information to help provide you with some peace of mind and some tools to support them. Okay, so this is going to be a very important and, like I said, informative discussion. But before we jump into the conversation, let me briefly introduce for you or to you a very special host. His name is Major, and his impact is the same. His star struck fiercely over the world at the debut of the new, now gold certified and nearly platinum, y'all, with his hit song, Why I Love You. Now, I'm just going to clue you in. Be sure to stick around to the end so you can hear this favorite song of mine. So as Stevie Wonder projected, lovers have commissioned the breakout ballad to soundtrack milestone moments never to be forgotten. Major is becoming a major household name for many simply because he won't stop charming the hearts with his message of love and hope, and it's all wrapped up in that signature falsetto. Now, Honest, and I'm being honest, but that's also the name of his song. Honest is a song that speaks about vulnerability, and truth and being one's greatest inner power. It's claimed his first Grammy and Soul Train nominations, or Soul Train Award nominations. So, you guys, let me tell you, if I haven't told you enough about Major, get ready to mark this, okay? Now, after 2 indie solo projects,
I'm here now. You don't have to say anything else. I'm here now.
We gotta do it. We gotta do it.
Listen, you can stop right there. Beautiful people, my name is Major. That's the name my mama gave me. And I'm so honored to be here with all of you all. I think this is a very important conversation. And I just want to update the praise report, right? Because you read a very extensive bio on me, but I got to update it. You said Why I Love You was nearly platinum, but I'm here to let you know that we just hit platinum. Major.
Come on. You got it here first, folks.
And this is why I love you. That's why I say it. That's why I sing it. Because God shows and proves himself time and time again to be a promise keeper. Yeah.
Wow. That is, listen, I feel, for some reason, I feel privileged and honored. We get hot off the press.
There it is.
From the man himself. I mean, that's a major deal.
Yeah.
And Major, I love that your name is Major with a period behind it. I love that. It's like Major.
There's meaning behind that. There's intentionality behind it. My mama named me Major. I just capitalized every letter and put a period behind it because I kind of went through a journey of not wanting to embrace that name as my own name. You know, it was different from all of my friends, but my mom said, after considering actually aborting me, her decision to keep me as a child out of wedlock to go forward with the pregnancy, she prayed that I'd make a major impact on the world. And so I'm just leaning into purpose. But my mama waited until I was about to graduate college to finally tell me why. So I applaud her, and then I say, shame on you for waiting so long, you know. But yeah, we're here.
But your footsteps were ordained, and all of that had purpose and meaning. And like you said, we are now here.
We are now here. And I have leaned into this conversation and this responsibility of dealing hope. They call me the hope dealer. And Dr. Crawford, I salute you because that's exactly what you're doing in your profession, dealing hope.
Well, I'm trying, and I appreciate the acknowledgement and the nod from you. Now, he stopped me. I did not read all of those accolades, but please look up Major because he's doing big and major things. I mean, more than just being a platinum recording artist. There's more to Major, and that's no minor feat. So, you guys, I also want to take a minute. Well, Major, we've heard a lot about you. I definitely appreciate you being here. I'm honored to moderate on a platform with you. We also have a medical doctor here with us today who's going to answer some questions for us, and we're going to get right into it. I want to bring to the platform now she likes to be called Dr. Donna, but Dr. Donna Carey, Dr. Donna White Carey, who is a medical doctor. Dr. Donna, share a little something about yourself with the audience tonight.
Hi. Well, thank you, Dr. Crawford. Thank you, Major. It's really an honor to be on this panel with you both tonight. I am Dr. Donna White Carey. I'm a pediatrician by training. I've also done a fellowship in adolescent medicine, which means that I have, a little bit of extra knowledge about how teenagers and their minds work, as scary as that might be to some of us. And I have a YouTube channel called Talking with Dr. Donna, and every Thursday at 6:30 p.m., usually I tell everyone to keep an appointment with the doctor. And tonight my appointment was with you all. So yes,
I like it.
Show, we talk a lot about my goal is to build what I call generational health. And that is in the Black community. Come on, Major. Come on, Major. In the Black community, we talk a lot about generational wealth and generational knowledge, but we do not talk about generational health. So my goal is to really talk to kids starting out as young as possible to talk about how to build great, healthy habits and keep those good habits all the way up until they leave this earth. And that's each generation, because what I really want to do is to end the cycle of premature death in our community. We die too young, too often, and I want to end that. So that is my goal and my platform and why I'm here, Major.
I love it. I love another hope dealer for the people.
Yes.
Listen,
yes.
we're about the work, and it's a beautiful thing.
That's right.
I absolutely love it. I absolutely do love it. And thank you, Dr. Donna, for sharing yourself with us. Thank you also, Major. I'll just tell you a little bit about me. I am a licensed psychotherapist here in the state of California. I have a private practice. I also work in community mental health. I've done a lot of different things. I've worked in schools. I work at my church. I've worked in jails and prisons, community mental health. I've worked with children, adults, families, Christian counseling. I try to get in there and get it done. So I've been dubbed, not by myself, but from others, Dr. Sunshine.
I love it.
Yeah, try to bring some rays of sunshine and a different perspective and point of view. And if you want to know more about me, we won't do it here on this platform, but you can catch me. My website is lifebrightnow.com, and I'm on IG also, the Dr. Sunshine, the Dr. Sunshine. So you guys, with that, let's get into it. Major,
Before
what
we
do you want to say?
something just hit me, Dr. Crawford. Are you the wife of mega producer, Pastor Shep Crawford?
I certainly am.
It just hit me. They don't know.
Yes.
The people may not know. We got some folks on this platform right now.
The folks don't know about the Grammy Award-winning LA pastor Shep Crawford. Those folks don't know.
Okay.
I am the proud wife and co-pastor
Yes.
at the Experience Christian Ministries, where I walk right alongside my senior pastor, Shep Crawford.
It just hit me. So this is family. Listen,
Yes.
let's get into it and
let's dig into it. Let's dig into it. So I don't know, Major, do you have a question right off the bat for Dr. Donna?
Okay, I'm going to ask I actually have two. So if you give me a little time to ask both. The first question, are we still in a pandemic or not? Please tell me.
Yes, we are most definitely still in a pandemic. And that's unfortunate. And I wish I could say something different. But as we know, in many of our communities right now, we're experiencing what's called a summer surge. So we had a huge surge of cases of coronavirus, initially, then we kind of had a dip. Then we had the Delta strain. Then we had a little dip. Then we had, Omicron, like so many different Omarion. And so we've had so many different variants of this disease. And really, we are still seeing high numbers of people continuing to become infected. We're still seeing people who are hospitalized. And I bet you not one person that's watching this can say they don't know someone who's had COVID or has personally had COVID, or someone in their family or church family has had COVID. So COVID is everywhere. And I want to talk about, I'll talk a little bit later about the danger in us thinking that because it's everywhere, then I'm automatically going to get it. And I'm going to talk a little bit later about the danger of that thought. So let's put a pin in that for me, because I might forget, Dr. Crawford.
Well, we'll try to remind you that it's a very unfortunate reality that by now we do all know someone who's been affected. But we'll keep it moving. Major, you had another question.
Yeah, I mean, do I know people that have been affected? Absolutely. Have I just recently, I overcame it a little over a month ago. It was misery. I'm vaccinated, got the booster. And I thank God I did not endure what I know people that were not vaccinated dealt with. It is nothing to play with. And we are very careful. My wife, it wears the N95 like it is a pair of earrings. Like she is loyal to the safety measures and precautions and protocols, but we still caught it. And me being an entertainer and being out and about, I do have this thing where I can't. I just hug everybody that wants a hug. I love on everybody. I'm one of 10 siblings, so I'm used to community. So it's very difficult for me not to, to touch. Yeah. And so, but I found myself catching the very thing that I had worked so hard to avoid. But thanks be to God. And I really do believe this is not me pushing, because I'm not getting paid from the makers of the vaccine, but I do believe that the wisdom to get vaccinated was what kept me to be able to endure this virus. I think one of the things that people get confused with, the vaccine does not mean you'll never catch it.
Right.
It just it enhances your defenses. It builds your defenses. Am I right?
That's right. Absolutely. And I think, this was a very different rollout of vaccines, right? Vaccines are not new in our community, and particularly for our kids. Our kids are getting vaccinated for the first, 2 years of their lives. That's all they're doing is getting vaccinated. So vaccines aren't new, but what was new was that this was a brand new virus. We had a brand new vaccine, and we had brand new technology with this vaccine. So a lot of people had questions. A lot of people were concerned about it. A lot of people were saying, hey, what is this thing? And so I understand why so many of us are still unvaccinated. But what we know is that being unvaccinated increases your risk of getting seriously ill from COVID, going into the hospital, or dying by 8 times, right?
Wow.
That's 8 times increased risk by not being vaccinated. So the benefits of being vaccinated, if you're able to, it really outweighs what we now know about risk. We're about 2 years into the vaccine. We've had millions and millions of doses given. We have data for the past 2 years now. We know a lot about what the vaccine does and what it doesn't do. So we're in a lot better position than we were when it was first rolled out. So
that's a good thing.
Yes, I'm glad that you got vaccinated, because it did protect you. Absolutely.
Absolutely.
Well, that leads me to a question, Dr. Donna. Millions and millions of doses out there, but recently in the news, we're hearing that children younger and younger are becoming eligible for the vaccine. So, burning question of the evening, are the COVID-19 vaccinations or vaccines safe for kids?
So hot off the press, right? The FDA just approved vaccines from both Pfizer and Moderna, which is great because we didn't have a vaccine for anyone less than 18 from Moderna. So this is great news that we now have 2 options, Pfizer and Moderna, vaccines for our youngest kids. So the Moderna and Pfizer vaccines are really targeting those kids less than the age of 5 or 6, depending on if you're doing the Pfizer or the Moderna, all the way down to 6 months. And that's really great news. What we know about children and COVID is that, number one, children are not exempt from getting COVID. So they are just as likely to get infected as adults. And that's really definitely, we saw that with this last Omicron surge. And number 2, we know that kids don't tend to die from getting coronavirus, right? Thankfully, our kids are pretty resilient and they don't get as sick and they don't die, but we still have millions of kids testing positive and getting coronavirus. The
carriers spreading it.
Carriers spreading it and getting sick, pretty sick, right? Getting croup. It's scary to think about your 5-month-old or 6-month-old having this virus and not really having any real treatments for it except for time. And that's difficult. If you have kids, it's hard to see your kid with a runny nose or a cough and you can't do anything about it. Well, one of the things that we can do is to help prevent your kids from getting sick or hospitalized is to think about getting them vaccinated with these new vaccines.
Wouldn't it possibly also, because some of these symptoms, couldn't they also trigger long-standing or long-sustained effects like respiratory effects if you don't work to try to treat that and prevent now, because there's some people that I believe that oftentimes you can trigger something that causes folks to have asthma eventually, and long-term asthma is nothing. There it is. Look, I seem kind of smart. Look at me.
Yes, you're right on though. We call that long COVID, right? We call it when someone who has test positive for COVID, and this is what we know now after 2 years, is whether or not they actually had symptoms. They can still, down the road exhibit symptoms of coronavirus.
Yeah.
They can continue to have headaches is the most common, or brain fog, where there's confusion. You can't quite think as clearly. We're seeing that. And then in the pediatric population, we're seeing an increased risk in myocarditis and pericarditis. That's sort of inflammation of the sac or the muscle of the heart. And we're also now seeing, if you've heard in the news in the last few months, a string of kids getting this major hepatitis that's causing liver failure. And half of those kids that have had this type of hepatitis also had coronavirus. So this is why you really want to try to prevent coronavirus from impacting your young children.
Yeah.
Wow. That good information. I want to take a question from our viewing audience, but before we do, I have another question for you, Dr. Donna. I'm hearing about the booster, and now, I'm vaccinated, and I also had the booster, just like Major did. But now I'm hearing about a second and a third booster shot. So, are the boosters getting another booster, and does that mean that the vaccines are not effective? Is that effectively what that means?
So that's a really good question. And it is not quite what that means. Okay. So what it means when you get a booster is think back to when you were a child and you were getting vaccinated and you had a vaccine maybe when you were like a year old. So measles, mumps, rubella vaccine is a great example. At a year old, we give our children measles, mumps, and rubella vaccine. And then when they get 11, we give them what's called a booster. And the reason we do that is because over time, your antibodies get a little weary. So I call our antibodies soldiers. So imagine your soldiers are out on the field for, 10 years. After about 10 years, they're going to get a little tired, a little fatigued. They're thirsty. They need
electrolytes.
They need some electrolytes, right? Yeah. They need a song. Major, could you sing me a song and give me excitement? Right?
My life is better with you in it.
Exactly. So our antibodies need a little bit of a boost, and we want our bodies to have the maximum ability to fight this virus should your body come into contact with it. And so that's what the booster shots do. They give your antibodies, your little soldiers, gets them back up, working optimally and ready right on that front line, ready to fight if the virus comes into your body. Now, the reason we're needing a second booster and a third booster is because, remember, we created this vaccine in less than a year. And the goal of the vaccine was, hey, people are dying left and right. People were dying all day, every day, thousands upon thousands of people. And so we wanted to get a vaccine out to end people dying. And so the vaccine, we weren't sure of how long it was going to be effective. But what we wanted was something out that was safe, that was going to work immediately and to stop so many people from dying. Yeah. And so what we now know is that the optimal time for this vaccine is somewhere between 4 and 6 months. After that, your antibodies start getting a little tired on the battlefield, right? And so we need to boost them back up. And so that's why you need a booster. And because we're still in this pandemic, we're getting another booster, right? We were hoping a year we'd be out of this and done, but we're not. And so that's why you continue to see boosters being made available so that we can be optimally ready if that virus enters our body.
I am so grateful, and I want everyone watching in real time and watching later to realize that we have medical experts. We have medical experts on this call, on this virtual panel right now, that are giving true researched information, not Google WebMD, because let me tell you something. WebMD said I had stage 4 cancer when I had a little I went to every single.
Dr. Google.
That's Dr. Google, right?
Relax. You don't. The white lady had to say, "Brother, relax." She said, "Brother, relax. You don't have cancer." And I said, "But that's what WebMD said." She said, "Unfortunately, WebMD can be wrong sometimes because we're inserting things and we're not realizing that they're not as accurate to the real symptoms that we have." Yeah. So I'm grateful that LA Focus took the time to make sure we had medical experts on the line to really hear from, and not just our mom and them's friends.
Thank you. Yes,
absolutely. I have to say that I definitely appreciate you bringing facts and stats and more than just opinions. Yes. I want to take a moment because I said at the top of the hour that this was going to be a conversation between us and the audience. So I do want to bring the audience in. So I want to encourage the audience to ask questions while we can still answer questions. And while we're waiting and soliciting those questions from our live audience, I just want to say that there actually is a link between the COVID-19, just COVID-19 and mental health in general. And it does impact our youth and our kids. They have been affected and impacted primarily, not necessarily the thing connected to vaccines, because obviously these vaccines are a new thing for a lot of them. But it's the mental health. It's more directly connected to being in a pandemic. It's moving from what we're accustomed to, hanging out with our friends, being in school with our friends, in-person learning, to this distant learning, to getting in front of a computer screen like we are right now, more interaction on the phone, and kind of being socially disconnected. And for a lot of kids, that did bring on depression and anxiety for them. And I just want to really quick just throw out to parents, each child is different. All children are different. How they respond is different. What their cues and what's going to be more beneficial to them is different. You know your children, so look out for things that are different. I would hate to just run down a list of things to look out for because we're individuals.
But please, if you have a few, just share it. Yeah.
Well, I mean, some common, if your child is, look out for things that are different with your children. And that's the reason why I don't want to run down a list. But let me give you some examples. Mm-hmm. If you have an outgoing child that is now isolated and no longer interested, and you notice that your child has put the phone down when they're usually TikToking and doing all that, you want to pay attention to that. And I think the opposite is true too. If your child is usually reserved and now all of a sudden they're like this major extrovert, that could be crying out for help and attention. So you want to look for differences in your child. You want to make sure that you mark that. And then another thing just to be mindful of is we as parents, sometimes we don't want to be honest and have honest conversations about how we're doing and how we're feeling because we don't want to give that burden to our children. So I think, again, your children, you want to make sure that your children are informed so that you leave an open door for them to have a safe space to share with you what they're really thinking and what they're really feeling so that you can be of help and assistance. So I just kind of want to throw that out there.
To echo that, and I know we're going to get into some questions from the audience, but I just want to make sure I champion that encouragement that you gave to parents, and also for parents to understand, as much as you are to be attentive to your children, to be attentive to yourself, because oftentimes in life, especially mothers, I realize that they are postured to always give and give and give and give, and they neglect themselves in the process. And so I say in the book of Major, chapter 1, verse 1, in all your giving, neglect not yourself. Remember that you're deserving of the very love that you give, the very nurturing that you give. You're deserving of that. And I want to encourage everybody that's listening, to the fathers that feel like, oh, so I got to work double time to make sure I take care of my family because health insurance is more expensive and maybe we got to get these things in order. Take a moment to catch your breath. Catch your breath. And this is for the teenagers that are watching, that are fans of Marvel and DC. A brother of mine, a very, very popular brother of mine, sent a text message April 4th of 2020 at the height of the top of the pandemic, when everything was shut down. We had to stop. He sent a text, a group text. I don't like group text, but I read this one because it's I can't stand group text. But a brother sent this message, and because he doesn't generally text in general, I said, let me read it. And he challenged all of us collectively to pray for the hope of the world, because he said that the pandemic has not only impacted the molecular, but it has also affected our emotional and our mental states. And what has happened is our hope has been challenged. And as a hope dealer, of course, I was awakened to making sure that I really spoke life into people's hope center, to re-inspire hope in people, that they understand that when your mindset shifts, your condition has to take suit and follow suit. He said this one thing. He said the plague was asked why it had killed so many. The plague responded, I only killed 100. The thousands that died from the fear of me. Are you hearing me? So
that's something to chew on.
Yeah.
Yes. And it's a mindset. When we shift our mindset, that's why doctors are always encouraging patients to think positively, because when your positive thought does something, when it changes and shifts into positivity, your body has to take course and action that has to abide by what you are speaking and thinking. And then your reality starts to follow accordingly. So I just want to encourage everybody. That brother passed away in August of 2020. It shifted the entire world. His name was Chadwick Boseman. But if Chadwick was willing and able to pray for the hope of the world, and the midst of his hardest life struggle, I think that we should be able to take intentional moments to not only catch our breath, but to hold strong to this hope as we heal at the same time.
Major, well, I love you. Okay.
Yes. Yes. Yeah. Major is a singer, a recording artist, a writer, and a mental health advisor. Yeah. So come on through.
I'm always for it. Always
come on through.
Yes.
I think, yes.
I want to add to what you're saying. I want to add to this because I want to remind us that we had a very traumatic event, right? Something that we have never experienced in our lives. The trauma of a complete world shutdown and shut in. That is traumatic. And I want all of the parents and the kids who are out there to remember that we went through some trauma. And I want us to give ourselves some grace, like Major said. For parents, give yourself some grace to give yourself time to be reacclimated into life. And particularly for our children who have never in their whole lives that they've, been alive, had to not attend school. I mean, that is major. That is something that they are used to doing.
Different. Yeah.
That is something that is during this time of social emotional learning, where they're starting to learn facial cues and how to socially interact. Right during the time when our middle schoolers are in that socially awkward phase, they go into complete virtual everything. I mean, now they're coming out of that, and we expect them to be right back to where they are. We expect their grades to go right back to being A's. We expect them to remember everything that we're saying. We're expecting them to act normally when everything has been turned upside down. So I want to remind parents to give your children some grace. And I want to remind, couples, give each other some grace. We just spent, a whole year locked up together in the house.
Brothers and sisters, get
out of here.
Siblings,
everybody,
all of it.
Yeah.
Everybody.
So let's do this. Let's take this intentional moment.
Yes.
And Dr. Sunshine, I know you know about this.
Yes.
Let's get it. Let's hear about it.
There's a word in the Hebrew that comes in Psalms, and it's often used by David as a pause called Selah.
Mm-hmm.
And it's a pause to reverence the calm, the pausing to calmly think on what God has done, what he's doing, and what he will do.
Mm-hmm.
And in this pause, we're able to catch our breath and to find a pace of grace that will reward us for simply sticking with the journey.
Yes.
So we can just take a moment to collectively lead the viewers into catching their breath. Everybody, deep breath in. Let it out. One more deep breath in. Deep breath out. And this last time, let's think on all of our concerns, all of the worries, all of the struggles, all of the burdens. And let's take it in. Deep breath in. Now let it out. That right there is release and surrender.
Yes.
It is no longer your burden.
Yes.
A power much greater than you has taken it on.
Amen.
And thanks you. Keep living, beautiful people.
Yes.
Let's get to those questions, y'all.
Yes.
Let's get to those questions. I hope that the audience is really tapping into this and understanding that self-care is not selfish. And sometimes it's as simple as stopping to take a breath.
Yes.
Sometimes it's that simple. And I want to say this before we go to the question. We do have a question. It's okay. Needing to get a little help and assistance is okay. So if you need a little help and assistance, it's okay to reach out and get a little help and assistance. Okay. I want you to be able to do that.
And you know what's so funny about that, Dr. Crawford? Sorry, because I talk about this all the time with my church. I'm an executive pastor too. We got all church up here.
We got all kinds of stuff going on today. All kinds of stuff on the line.
Yes,
today.
I'm the executive pastor. My husband is the senior pastor. True Vine Ministry. Shout out. They're probably watching. But I wanted to say this point about mental health in the Black community, because so often we say, I'm going to just pray away my symptoms. And obviously, everyone on this panel believes in the power of prayer. We know what God can do. That is not the question. The question is whether or not prayer alone is what you should be seeking. And mental health professionals are just like physicians, right? If you have a problem with your blood pressure and your doctor tells you that you have high blood pressure, you don't ever say, well, I'm just going to pray away my high blood pressure. No, you go to the doctor, you get a prescription for your medication, and you take that medication faithfully because you know that it is helping your blood pressure. If you have kidney disease, you have diabetes, you don't say, I'm not taking my insulin because I'm just going to pray it away. No, you don't. You go take your insulin, you go get your dialysis, you do whatever it takes to make sure that you are getting the medical help you need in addition to your prayer time. And
in order to heal, to fully heal.
And your mind is probably the most important
organ
in the body. If you are
mental health,
you are dead. If you're brain dead, you're dead, right? We count you dead. So you need to take care of your brain and your mind, just like you do your heart, your kidneys, your lungs, and any other part of your body. Let's stop this, just because it's mental health, let's stop, not wanting to seek the right type of help. Pray, absolutely, but get the help that you need as well.
Well, on this platform, it seems that we are addressing all areas to make sure that you step off this platform feeling whole. This is wholeness. This is our mental health, our physical health, and our spiritual health today. So we are getting it all in, and we've even tapped into social health. But our time is running out, so I want to make sure that I get a question in from Tori Lee. I had to put on my glasses. Oh, here we go. Tori says, I'm expecting, and I've had the vaccine, and my other children have had the vaccine as well as all other members in the household. However, I'm not confident and rushing to vaccinate my infant child. So, Dr. Donna, that sounds like a question and concern that's directed towards you.
Yes, absolutely. And Miss Lee, I really appreciate this question because it's so true. As parents, we are in charge of taking care of these young people's lives who can't make the decisions on their own. So every decision that we make is going to impact them, good or bad. And so it makes sense that you are not quite confident. And so one of the things that I encourage everyone to do is to talk it over with your child's doctor, because your child might have a little nuance about their medical condition that may make it where the vaccine may not be encouraged in your child. And so instead of making blanket statements, which I don't tend to do, I always encourage you to make sure you have this conversation with your provider. Now, what we know is the safety and efficacy of the vaccine trials. So we know to date, there's been about 11,000 kids who have been vaccinated with this new child vaccine. And we've seen that those vaccines, number one, it's the same vaccine that the adults have. It's just a smaller dose. So we can kind of be confident in knowing that we've had millions of doses in adults, and it's the same formulation. It's just in a smaller quantity. So we can have some confidence in that. And we know the side effects of the vaccines for adults. We also can look at the kids themselves who were in these vaccine trials and what were their side effects. And their side effects were very similar to the side effects that we saw in adults and we see in adults when they get vaccinated. So while we don't have a lot of information in particular about these kids, we do know, and these vaccines, we do know that about 11,000 kids have had these vaccines, and we know that there's millions of people who've had these very same vaccines in a higher dose. And so we can have a conversation about safety, of course, and in particular, you and your child with their child's doctor. But we can probably say with some, confidence that we know what this vaccine can do, and we know what it does do for children because we had so many doses of it in adults. So I hope that helps you.
I hope that helps you. I don't know. Do we have any other questions? Because if not, I have a quick question. And I guess to kind of go along with that, we have the vaccines, we have the boosters. Do we still need to be wearing masks?
Oh, that's a great question. It's probably my favorite question about masks. Absolutely.
Look at me.
Absolutely. We are still in the middle of this pandemic. And there are, if you think way back to the very beginning, we gave some tips of things that help you to prevent yourself from getting sick during this pandemic, right? We told you to wash your hands frequently or sanitize your hands. We encourage you to stay kind of 6 feet away from people, give yourself some distance. We encourage you to wear a mask. And then when vaccines became available, we said vaccinate. Now we're still in this surge, right? We're still in this pandemic. So all of those things that we were doing in the very beginning to help prevent us from getting ill, we definitely need to continue. Masks are super important because the way the viruses spread is through the air, airborne particles in the air. And the way to prevent those particles from landing on your mouth or landing in your nose and then going and entering into your body is by wearing a mask. Now, many counties have gone back to indoor masking mandates and saying that masks are optional outdoors. And I am of the flavor that, hey, I wear my mask indoors and I wear my mask outdoors. If I'm around a group of people, I'm wearing my mask. If I'm going to eat, I take my mask off for a very brief, limited amount of time. I eat and I put my mask on. Why? Because we know that the virus is spread by airborne. It's easily spread. And if I want to protect myself, masks is one of the best ways to protect myself now, in addition to making sure that I'm vaccinated.
So what happens with kids and or adults that aren't able to take the vaccine? Because we do hear people saying they have some conditions that don't go well with the vaccine. Can you speak to that?
Yeah. And so there are some alternatives that are coming out. So the majority of us can actually take the vaccine, right?
Okay.
And so if you have a chronic medical condition like high blood pressure, diabetes, high cholesterol, heart disease, are pregnant, you definitely want to get the vaccine. But there are some conditions where if your immune system is weak, the vaccine you don't really want to take the vaccine. So for those people who are unable to take the vaccine, there are some medications and other treatments that are being created right now so that it will help them to sort of boost their immune system against the virus without taking the particular vaccines. Again, this is the conversation you want to have with your medical doctor, right? As you're talking about whether or not I should get the vaccine, because they know exactly your health conditions, your medications that you're on. They know everything about you. So I say, if you can't have a conversations with your doctor, then that doctor is not a part of what I call your dream team. And you need to bench that doctor and get another doctor.
I like that.
Bench that doctor.
I like that. I like that
Bench him
because
or
a
her.
lot of people are making this decision simply because of opinions and, a lot of, stories that are more mythical than true, and some fair, concerns that, over time, we have grown to not always trust the general medical industry as a culture. But I definitely love that. It's like, go to your doctor specifically and ask them if you should take it. And, if they advise it based on your condition, take it. Yeah.
Take it.
Yeah.
It's life-saving.
Yeah. And if you don't have a doctor that you trust, I'm with Dr. Donna. Bench him or bench her. You need medical advice that you can actually trust to walk out. Now I know that our time is winding down. It just seems like the hour is flying by, but it is a forum on youth and child vaccination. So I do have another question specifically aimed in that direction. Do we have another question? How many months should you give before a second booster shot? We'll answer that question, and I have another one for you. That's from Cynthia.
Oh, okay, great.
Cynthia Billard.
Yes. Cynthia, shout out, Truvine in the house. Hey, Cynthia.
Hey.
So, for your vaccine, what we are seeing is anywhere between 4 and 6 months is the optimal time to get your second booster shot. So right now, second boosters are pretty much open for anyone over the age of 50 or who has a chronic medical condition. You qualify to get your second booster. Now, we haven't yet done a second booster for our 12 to 17-year-olds, right? They're sort of months behind the adults, the way we're moving. But I'm anticipating that that's going to come pretty soon. That the 5 to 11-year-olds, right? That booster, the first booster is coming, and we'll probably, depending on how long we're in this pandemic, may also get to a second booster for them. So 4 to 6 months is sort of your optimal time if you have not received that second booster shot as an adult.
Okay, thank you. Good deal.
It's complicated.
And Dr. Donna, if you wouldn't mind really quick, the side effects for COVID-19, are they different from adult? Are the child and adult side effects different? And are the symptoms and behaviors the same?
So of actually getting sick from the virus or the vaccines?
I'm thinking I think
we should address both.
Okay.
Yeah, I was going to say whatever you think is most salient, because they're both relevant in this discussion.
Yeah. So definitely let's go first with you get the virus. So let's go with the symptoms of the virus. And those tend to be in elementary school and above in that age range. The symptoms are very similar to adults. So you may get a headache. You may get a sore throat. You may have GI symptoms. So you're vomiting or having some loose stools. You can have a cough, a fever. So all of these are the same symptoms that you're seeing in adults. In our younger children, it may be a little bit harder as parents to determine that they're sick, right? Because they can't come and tell you my throat hurts or my head hurts, or as my son said, I have pain behind my eyebrows, right? Because he had never had a headache before. So it's just pain behind his eyebrows, right? But thinking about that and thinking about, if they're acting differently, if they're grumpier or not feeding as well, or they're not sleeping as well, if they seem more irritable. Those are some of the symptoms that you can see in our infants. A lot of it also is some respiratory symptoms. So the coughing you might see, but in kids may not be the cough, but it might be breathing faster or breathing harder or sort of louder, or having, if you ever have heard kind of had your kid had croup, where they sort of have that loud barking cough. We're seeing a lot of kids who have COVID actually come in with symptoms.
It's called
croup. Yes.
Yeah, down south, where they call it crook. You got the crook cough.
CROUP, like Paul, croup.
Got it.
Yes. And so that's the symptoms if you're in terms of your virus. Of the vaccines, very similar. We're seeing, again, same sort of side effects for adults and children who are in middle school and elementary school and above, with fever, chills, fatigue, like really being very tired after you get your vaccine. Sometimes having, of course, pain where we actually inject the vaccine. That's probably the most common side effect is pain where we give the actual shot. And that's for any shot, right?
I got a nose under my armpit.
Yes,
that's when WebMD told me I had
stage 4 cancer.
Very common because it activates your immune system, right? And your lymph nodes really is where you carry your antibodies. That's what part of your lymph nodes do. So it makes sense that in that arm where you got the shot, that your lymph nodes would start to get swollen, because those are activating the antibodies, because that's what you want your body to do. You want your body to respond as if it's seeing the virus without seeing the virus, so that your soldiers are ready when the virus does come into your body. They say, oh, hey, I've already seen this. I know this. This is an enemy. I'm going to go kill it, right? That's what you want. That's what the vaccine does.
Yeah, well, like I said, time flies when you're having fun. It looks like we're at the end of our fun train, but it's been a very informative train, fun and informative. So first and foremost, we want to thank our special hosts and guests. Let you guys, our audience, let's give it up for Major, who is Major, period. Okay. And then we want to give it up for Dr. Donna. Thanks so much. LA Focus, thank you so much. Of course, the conversation was brought to us by the California Department of Public Health and Vaccinate All 58. Now, before I go, I want to make sure that you guys can tap into the next Shot of Faith webinar. That one's going to be with actress none other than Wendy Raquel Robinson. Yay to her.
I love her.
Coming up. Yes, me too. That's coming up on Thursday, June 30th at 6 p.m. And she will also be joined by a medical professional to answer all of our questions. And that discussion is going to be live too. So you don't want to miss that. So once again, thanks to all of you. I hope you were able to get your questions answered. Dr. Donna, let us know how we can find you. You did. You let us know. Major, me, we're all out there. So make sure you can reach out to all of us. We're all on social media. We all have our websites and things going on. So I'm hoping you were able to pick up some nuggets and some information. Now, look at there. So you can connect with Dr. Donna. There's her information.
Yes, and my YouTube channel, Talking with Dr. Donna, every Thursday at 6:30. Keep your appointment with the doctor.
There too.
Lots of information.
Yep, mine just went up. You can connect with me, and there is Major's information there as well. Now, speaking of Major, we promised a major thing, didn't we? We did. But before we get to the major thing, we want to make sure that you like and subscribe to this particular webinar. Make sure that you like and share and subscribe. Like, share, subscribe. Make sure you do that. Make sure you connect with Dr. Donna. Make sure you connect with Major. I'm at lifebrightnow.com. Make sure you connect with me and become the whole person that you are. Now, as promised, I said we're going to get a chance to hear Major's hit song, Why I Love You, at the end of this webinar. And folks, here it is. Up next, we're going to go out with Major's Major video, Why I Love You. You guys.
I found love in you, and I've learned to love me too. Never have I felt that I could be all that you see. It's like our hearts have intertwined into the perfect harmony. This is why I love you. Ooh, this is why I love you. Because you love me. You love me. This is why I love you. Ooh, this is why I love you. Because you love me. You love me. I found love in you, and no other love will do. Every moment that you smile chases all the pain away. Forever and a while, in my heart is where you'll stay. And this is why I love you. Ooh, this is why I love you. Because you love me. You love me. This is why I love you. Oh, this is why I love you. Because you love me. You love me. The stars have all aligned, and right now is the perfect time to say, I love you, 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 I do. This is why I love you. This is why I love you. Because you love me. You love me. This is why I love you. Oh, this is why I love you. Because you love me. I found love in you, and no other love will do. That's why I love you.
Hey everybody,